March 5th, 125. In quiet, I receive God's word today. So, I don't know if you guys have been following since the very beginning, but it's almost like this illusion fallacy, right? Where you repeat something over and over again that it's adopted as true. Okay? So, we revisit the idea of believing something works and knowing something works. And that's why we're making the transition from believing something, right, as we do it through repetition. Let's just say that we're trying to fall in love, right? So it's almost like a hypnosis, and the more we tell ourselves that we love this person, the more we follow suit, okay? Now, when you take in consideration actual love, right, it's almost identical, but yet there's a barrier that allows you to do it unconditionally, right? You'll start to see the places where you may have put some conditions in terms of how you want to love, and we're breaking the barriers, right? So when these barriers are relinquished, right? These could be terror barriers, it could be success barriers, it could be love barriers, if you want to call it that. They are basically just disintegrated because of the light, right? Barriers are only because we try to complicate things, and when anything is complicated, it's the ego, right? So as much as we can study the ego, we can make it very, very real, right? So this is an artificial intelligence. It's not real, but we make it so real that it controls our entire lives, society, if you want to call it that, from a metaphorical perspective. So when we were reminding ourselves yesterday, if you want to call it that, basically we were trying to let ourselves know that it doesn't matter how far we are on the path, we are soon reminded of what we are, okay? Whether that's through pain, whether it's through suffering, joy, we have to understand that every time that we do something from now on, it's part of His will, Thy will, okay? So it's undeniably something that we have to recognize within ourselves as we are realizing that, as we are now realizing what the self is trying to do, okay? So sometimes it will orient us to certain people to help us and learn to love ourselves, certain situations. Basically, it's always giving you exactly what you need so you can be self-conscious, okay? Now, we want to be conscious, but not self-conscious where we are debilitating ourselves to the point that we don't take any action, okay? So we have to understand that we have these moments where life is going to tell us we are ready to move on, okay? And that's when we have molded ourselves within the information that we are receiving. So the information that we receive helps us form ourselves in a formation, right? So we're always molding ourselves as we are receiving ourselves at the same time. That's only if we allow ourselves to allow nature to experience ourselves. So how do we do that? We have to learn to be still, okay? Because as we are aliving ourselves, right, that's the same energy that we are doing for the outside world. So this person-environment transaction occurs from a biological level, and from even a biological level, we are just vibrating matter. Okay, so whatever we're putting out there is going to be reciprocated in such manner where we are provoking, evoking, or reacting to the environment. So it's an interaction that is always occurring, right? And in any interaction, there's one side that is, having the pull or the push, however you want to call it. It's a dance, okay? So when we do these moments, right, we have to be quiet with ourselves and stay still. Okay, so that's the only way that we learn to be connected with the inner source of ourselves, because the world is changing through us, right? So be the change that you want to see in the world, okay? And that happens primarily with us. So let's just say that everybody's interpreting our movie through our eyes. So when we do that, we have to paint the picture for them in a manner where they can receive it, okay? And the stronger our vibration, the higher our emotions, the more people will be susceptible to our new reality. Because again, it's happening through us. The world is changing through us. We are the crux, right? We're the fulcrum where the inner body, right, now connected, dissolves itself, and now we have no veil or any barrier between us and the outside world. Now it's being very clear as to what we must want, because as we are listening to his voice, we are listening to ourselves. Okay, so you can call this the subconscious mind is connecting to ourselves, right? And now it's being projected out in the world. You can call this your instinct, okay? And you have to be able to discern what is instinct coming from peace and certainty and joy and challenge, than the opposite, where it's coming from like chaos and despair and fear, okay? One should be having more of a willingness to do things and change your life for that, then the other one is more resistant. So one is expanding and one is contracting. And that's all we're trying to do, because as we connect to our inner source of energy, we are infinite. So the infinite possibilities of what could occur are basically just like that. There are infinite possibilities within infinite possibilities. And that's why when we understand what our true potential is, there's no way that we can actually create a finite thing. We can try to create an image, but that image can be limited in terms of the scope. So it's better to change the quality of how we're seeing our movie rather than the quantity, right? How many bits per second we can look at how it's changing every single moment. We can just allow ourselves to just let it unfold, because it's enriching, okay? Just like we would with our breath, we are aliving ourselves, we are getting more in unison with the connection with our mind and body. And basically that is being transcended, that mind and body, because now it's not something that you are thinking about, it's just something that you are, okay? So we're making the transition from feeling to being, okay? From the conscious competency to the uncompetency, from the little self, the little me, to the higher self, okay? And that's how we're allowing ourselves to receive these lessons, because now instead of thinking so much, right, and trying to figure it out, we're just allowing ourselves to receive the information at the right place, right time, in the present moment, because it's not a moment after or a moment later. And that's why it's so important to be fully present, because if you are trying to focus and see the information that is trying to unveil itself with our new vision that we have, then we have to be able to let go of the thoughts, right, and just be fully present, not forcing it, just like an ease within ourselves with the stillness, right? Because stillness is peace. So we can see how we want to think, but we slow down. And then, of course, within our emotions, which is the more difficult part to make the transition within the body. Because, again, we're always making this transition from trying to be anchored in the present moment. And the only way we do that is by being within the inner body. And we have to be able to dig deep into the inner body, and once that implosion occurs, then it expands out, right? So it's kind of like the universe, right? So there's an implosion, then it basically expands out. So that's really what we're trying to do when it comes to making the transition from the tipping point from pride to courage, right? Pride is a thing that stops us from seeing how we're all connected, right? It's the last barrier of separateness that we have with anything, right? So the uniqueness, the specialness that you may have is the ego. So when we make that transition, when we are looking at the karmic propensities that we have, we see it for what it is, right? It's our avatar being guided, right? It's our body being guided. It's our actor or the character within the movie being guided by the storyline, by the real, and we are the ones that are creating the real moment to moments by allowing it to unfold the way it's supposed to be.